Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. A London vacationer, dangerous assassins, and a beautiful blonde on a train. This week we're going back to 1935 for a British spy thriller film called The 39 Steps, starring Robert Donnet and Madeleine Carroll. And this is directed by Sir Alfred Hitchcock. So where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins in London with Canadian Richard Hannay, played by Robert Donnet, attending the Music Hall Theatre. Richard is watching a live show called Mr. Memory, a gentleman that demonstrates his powers of recall by asking him questions of the past. Suddenly, shots are heard, and in the ensuing panic, Hannay finds himself holding a seemingly frightened woman who persuades him to take her back to his flat. She tells him her name is Annabella Smith, a spy who fired the shots to create a diversion so she could elude assassins. She claims that she has uncovered a plot to steal vital British military information, masterminded by a man missing the top joint of one finger. To calm her nerves, Hannay invites her to stay over. She mentions the 39 steps, but does not explain the phrase. Later that night, Annabella bursts into Hannay's bedroom and warns him to flee before dying from a knife in her back. Finding a map of the Scottish Highlands clutched in her hand, it shows an area around Killen with a building named Altnastellic circled. Sneaking out of his flat disguised as a milkman. Yes, a milkman comes in and he borrows his clothing. He avoids waiting assassins and boards the Flying Scotsman train to Scotland at the Waverley Station in Edinburgh. On board, he learns he is the target of a nationwide manhunt for Annabella Smith's murderer. When Hannay sees police searching the train, he goes to another compartment, eluding them by kissing the sole occupant, a startled woman, and startled she was, a woman named Pamela, played by Madeleine Carroll. Frightened, however, Pamela alerts the policeman, who stops the train on the Forth Bridge. Having a chance to avoid capture, Hannay escapes. So does Hannay make it to the Altnastellic building in Killen? Does another chase reunite Hannay with Pamela? Or does an evil man with the top joint missing from one finger change the direction of our story? Based on the 1915 novel of the same name by British novelist and historian John Buchan, filmmaker and actor Orson Welles referred to this film as a masterpiece, and that it is. In fact, the book is so popular it is still in print today and sells about 10,000 copies a year. With a 96% rating from the film critic Rotten Tomatoes, it was voted the best British film of 1935 by The Examiner. It was the 17th most popular film at the British box office in 1935 and 1936. Packed with twists and turns, this essential Alfred Hitchcock feature hints at the dazzling heights he'd reached later in his career. In 1999, the British Film Institute ranked it the 4th best British film of the 20th century. In 2016, Empire added it to its list of the 100 best British films. And Time Out magazine ranked the film at number 8 on its list of the 100 best thriller films of all time. That is a big list to be on. In fact, if you like North by Northwest, the Alfred Hitchcock film from 1959 with Cary Grant and Eva Marie Smith, you will enjoy this one as well. Yes, another blonde and another train. And another trivia question. Did Sir Alfred Hitchcock work an interesting craft into the film? So did Sir Alfred Hitchcock work an interesting craft into the film? So the answer to a trivia question. And more history coming up next. The bridge on which the train stops to search for Hannay is the famous Forth Bridge, making it the subject of this week's history. So the Forth Bridge is a cantilever railway bridge across the Firth of Forth in the east of Scotland, 9 miles west of central Edinburgh. It was the first major structure in Britain to be made of steel, and its construction resulted in a continuous East Coast railway route from London to Aberdeen. Before the construction of the bridge, ferries were first used across the Firth until 1873, when the North British Railway obtained authority to build a suspension bridge designed by Thomas Bouch. Tragedy struck, however, when Bouch's original Tay Bridge collapsed during a storm in December of 1879. New plans were made stipulating that the bridge must be rigid and stiff and capable of carrying heavy freight trains. Sir John Fowler and his partner Sir Benjamin Baker were engaged by the Forth Bridge Company to develop a cantilever design bridge, taking in account these restrictions. The contract for its construction was let to Messrs. Errol and Company of Glasgow in 1882, and work on the bridge started in 1883. Employing a workforce of 4,600 men at the height of construction, the Forth Bridge has 3 double cantilevers with 2 1,700 feet suspended spans between them. Each of the towers has 4 steel tubes 12 foot in diameter, with a height of 361 feet above high water, with the rail level being 150 feet above high water. The bridge incorporates 53,000 tons of material, including 6.5 million rivets, which aggregated 4,200 tons of weight alone. Withstanding a wind force of 56 pounds per square foot, the total length of the bridge is 8,094 feet, or 2,467 meters. When it opened on March 4th, 1890 by the Duke of Rothesay, it had the longest single cantilever bridge span in the world until 1919, when the Quebec Bridge in Canada was completed. Considered a symbol of Scotland, having been voted Scotland's greatest man-made wonder in 2016, the Forth Bridge retains its rich heritage as a landmark rail crossing, carrying more than 200 trains per day, including the Flying Scotsman. And the answer to our trivia question this week: did Sir Alfred Hitchcock work an interesting craft into the film? Yes, he certainly did. He was pretty crafty. He had heard that Scottish industrialist and aircraft pioneer James Weir commuted to work daily in an autogyro and worked the aircraft into the film. Designed by Spanish inventor and engineer Juan de la Cerva, who created an aircraft that could fly safely at low speeds. The autogyro is a class of rotor craft that uses an unpowered rotor in free auto rotation to develop lift. Since its initial flight in January of 1923, modern versions of it are still used today, holding many world records, including one in 1931 when Amelia Earhart flew a Pitcairn PCA-2 to a woman's world altitude record of 18,415 feet, or 5,613 meters. Just amazing. I'd like to take this time to thank my subscribers and viewers this week. And if you want to see more of Alfred Hitchcock, please leave it in the comments, and we'll see you next week.